The EA Sports division of Electronic Arts have come in for a lot of heavy criticism over recent years, none more so than in their most popular and highest selling game series, the FIFA series. One of the game's most popular modes, Career Mode, has been the focal point of this because of the fact that it's been starved of any real quality development. This is due to the emergence of the online mode Ultimate Team and how it has now become EA's ultimate money spinner in their most popular sports game series, with the introduction of microtransactions and how popular they are in the mode. On top of that, we've seen the introduction of the relatively new game mode, the Journey, and because of the Journey, even less resources are now being poured into the Career Mode by EA because they are now focusing on Ultimate Team, the money spinner, and the Journey. This has seen a real backlash from Career Mode fans, and they feel that they are more starved than ever of real quality content, and as a result it is now ruining their experience of the game because that is their main game mode. Despite this, Career Mode still remains immensely popular and would perhaps be the undisputed number one if it just received a little bit more attention and effort. To emphasise this, here is part 1 of my wish list for FIFA 19 Career Mode. Bear in mind that some of these are perhaps a partial wish list for the future of Career Mode in general, because I know full well that they can't all be implemented next year, and I know even better that probably none of them are going to be implemented next year if EA get their way. The first point I'd like to discuss is managers. Now, the user is presented with this problem almost immediately. After you've picked your club that you wish to manage in Career Mode, you will come onto the character customization screen. Now, the user is presented with 11 avatars in total, and then they also have the option to pick either a suit, a shirt and tie, or a tracksuited manager. Now, immediately this presents a lot of limitations in terms of customizing your avatar. You're only given, as I said, 11 different people to pick from in terms of who you want your manager to be, and judging by the general demographic type of people that play this game, I would predict that minimum 7, 8, maybe 9 of them will hardly ever get played, and as a result that makes for a very limited experience already before you've even got into the Career Mode. Now, on top of this, after you've picked the avatar that you want to, you then move on to the clothing customization options, which, as mentioned, are even more scarce, because if, for example, you choose to wear a suit, you're then committed to that suit layout, and that suit layout, as you all know, is a regular suit with baggy trousers and the same colour, red, white and black tie. Now, if maybe you've started a career with Manchester City, it's highly unlikely that the manager is going to be wearing the colour tie of their rivals, Manchester United, but this can't be changed. You'll see it once or twice in cutscenes, transfer negotiations for example, where he might be wearing a black and white tie, but this is very rare. And what's strange about this is that EA have actually brought more attention onto your manager with the cutscenes that happen during games, which will then move on to your manager, or the scenes where you're negotiating transfers or contracts. Your manager also plays a huge role in that, and then on top of this you have the breaking news tabs in general, where your manager's in pictures and further scenes. But despite the added attention onto your manager, there is still a extremely limited customization field. Now, my suggestion of improvement for this and my wish list for the next FIFA would be to bring back game face. You know, EA already have the technology. They've proven that in past games that they've done, FIFA 14, 12, 11, etc. And then removed it quite recently, possibly FIFA 16. It was just done with, and since then we've heard nothing of it. They've already got the technology to implement this, so I believe, you know, game face should be added so that you can use your face, so you are the manager, you feel like the manager, you have that gratification of being in that place, and then on top of this you can customize in greater detail the clothing that you're wearing, change it up during a career. You know, maybe you want to be a tracksuit manager, but then perhaps for the special occasions, cup finals, etc., you change your manager into the suit, and you know, you can change the colour to the team, etc. Little things like this, which I feel would be more than achievable in a game such as FIFA, especially when it's proven that they already have the ability to implement these sort of features, but they're just not being added. Sticking with the section of the manager, but rolling further forward, manager options are restricted in career mode. You bounce from one team to another, you can choose another team to manage. They will offer you a deal and you say either yes please or no thank you. That's it. And on a side note, you can also choose to manage an international team as well as the club team. Now, first things first, I believe it should be possible, as is the case in real life, for you to manage an international team without managing a club team. I purely believe that this would add another element to career mode, because we hear a lot of stories about how people tend to lose their interest in a career mode after a couple of seasons because it gets a bit repetitive. International management alone adds just a different dimension. They could put their full focus into that without having to worry about the club job at the same time, and it would add another dimension. Yes, you would have longer breaks between matches, but that is easily simulated in a short amount of time, given the speed that it can simulate over the calendar year, so to speak. So I think this is definitely something that EA should look into. Going into slightly more depth on the manager scene, I believe that it should be possible for you as a player to negotiate a contract on behalf of your manager and the various different elements that are included in that, e.g. negotiating the wage that the board are offering you, perhaps you want more, the length of years that the contract, bonuses and clauses as well, perhaps a bonus for winning a title, a domestic trophy, etc. Clauses, maybe a promotion clause, a wage increase if you get promoted, or a relegation, wage decrease for in case you get relegated, things like that. And what this will do is, say, add to your job security, because let's say if you're forgetting about past performance for a minute, let's just say, for example, for argument's sake, you've got a 5-year deal and you're on, as a manager, £40,000 a week. You've got the 5 years remaining, you've just signed a new deal, but you're then performing quite poorly in the league. And there's a lot of talk about speculation regarding your job security, etc. The board are going to be a lot less likely to sack you because of the amount of money it will cost to do that, because you're adding a lot more expenditure, because you're on a lot of money and you've got many years remaining on your contracts, which means they are going to have to fork out much more than, say, if you've got 6 months remaining and you're on £1,000 a week as a manager. Then they're going to be a lot more inclined to get rid of you if you're not producing the goods. What the contract element will also do for you is it gives you more options and more freedom in your career. Perhaps you could then decide to run your contract down. You feel that your time at the club has come to a mutual end and you want a new challenge. You run your contract down, and then you can then become a free agent, and you're not forced into taking a job straight away. You can take a bit of time out and find the job that's right for you, because what it tends to do in FIFA is that, one, you don't have contracts anyway, so you can't take up that option, but two, also, if you get sacked, you're then forced into taking a job immediately, and it has to be the jobs that are available at that time. Now, that's not realistic in any sense, but two, it's not strictly an enjoyable way to play the game, because you could then get forced into managing a team which, you know, you have no interest, because there's a limited amount of options, and as a result you're just going to lose interest in the career and probably stop playing it. So this gives you, as said before, the freedom to then wait, be patient, and find the job that's just right for you. On top of this, clubs without a manager are more likely to then approach you, purely because of the fact that they don't have to pay any compensation to a club because you're not with a club. Whereas if you are a team, your manager, you've got, say, 3 years remaining, they're going to have to front up that cash of the 3 years to the club in order to hire you. So this would then perhaps make you a more viable option than, say, if you were managing another team. That brings me nicely onto the very minor feature of press conferences. Now, in FIFA career mode, they are extremely pointless, for want of a better term. they don't offer anything of any bearing, any value. You can go the whole career without taking part in them once and it will have no difference. Now this is really strange because this plays such a big part in football, and as a result I feel like it needs to play a bigger part in career mode as well. Now it would be nice to see, with the addition of cutscenes that have already occurred in FIFA 18, them to now implement this into press conferences. It's really strange that this wasn't already done, but perhaps they might already be working on it for next year, you know, who knows. But it would be nice to see if now they implemented a feature where the press conferences is happening, you're in either first person or third person. You can see all the lights on you, the cameras are flashing, the cameras are recording, the microphones are around you, the journalists are in the press room, and you're having to answer the questions that they are throwing towards you, which are going to have a direct impact on other things that are happening in the community. All of this would once again just bring more choice, more freedom and more realism into the game, as well as more immersion, because perhaps the journalists can approach you with questions, maybe you're quite rude to them, maybe you're quite reluctant to answer the truth, and as a result they're not going to show you the support in the news tabs that you want as a manager. Maybe they get on your back a lot more, or on the other hand perhaps you're sharing more with certain journalists and they're going to support you then and try and save perhaps an element of your job security. All these things can play just a little tiny part in helping make career mode a little bit better. An example of something else that could happen is you could go directly to the press and hint that you're not pleased about perhaps a lack of funds from the board, or even outright complain to them, and as a result the board will be unhappy with that and approach you regarding what to do next. Maybe they want to fine you, maybe they want you sacked unless you can give them a reasonable explanation. Things like this I think will just give another dimension to a career mode that's now severely lacking. That brings me nicely on to my next feature on the wish list, and that is board interaction. Now first and foremost I would just like to mention how in FIFA 14 EA brought in a feature where you could request funds from the board, and that was fantastic. You know, people really liked that. They enjoyed being able to get access to more funds to bring in the players that they wanted, and that was great. And up until FIFA 16 it was working fine, but then FIFA 17 comes around and for some reason the feature's gone, and no one has a clue, no one has any explanation why. I have actually researched into it and I'm yet to find why this has just removed, and FIFA 18 comes around and it's still not there, which is really strange because this is just a normal part of football and a feature that the fans liked, and they've just removed it with no explanation, which is really strange. But back to the point, board interaction has the potential to be a huge part of career mode, and I feel this has to be the next step. They've already alluded to it with the objectives and obviously the request funds, but now it has to go 1, 2, 3, 4 steps further, and really they have to delve into this as soon as possible because it has to be the logical next step. Methods of interacting with the board, reasons for interacting with the board could be maybe you want an improved contract. You know, you feel that you've been performing well and you deserve a higher wage and a longer deal, or perhaps it's coming to an end. Maybe you've been approached by another team and you want to either ask them for permission to speak to that team, or perhaps you want to see what incentives they can offer you in order to stay at the club. Another reason would be to increase or decrease objectives. Obviously they've become a big part of career mode in recent years. FIFA 17 they were implemented on a wider scale in terms of diversifying objectives. You may feel that perhaps the objectives aren't enough and you want to increase them, or you want to decrease them because you feel like they're being too ambitious and the club isn't in the right place to do it. Another reason you'd interact with the board would be to request to improve facilities, and we're going to come on to the subject of facilities in part 2 of this episode, so make sure you come on to that because it is a big and diverse potential idea. Should the board turn down any of your requests, you can then have the option to leak stuff to the press and as a result force their hand, so to speak, or try your luck at least But be careful, because this could then backfire. There's a lot of risk attached to this. They might be very stubborn, turn around and say you shouldn't have done this, you don't deserve any more funds, or for another request to be granted, and as a result we want you out of this club, you're fired. So there's a lot of room for improvement in this section, and I think it can add a whole new dimension, as can a lot of these other features that have been and are going to be suggested to career mode, and it's just what the fans need as the next step. That will bring part 1 to a close. I was going to do this in 2 parts, but I've without a doubt now got to do it in 3, because there is a whole host of things to talk about and add to this wish list, and a lot of depth and detail to go into. So please do tune in for those 2 episodes as well, where we'll talk about things such as facilities, player interaction, financial management, and a whole lot more. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave a like, please subscribe if you're not already. And on that note, thank you so much for watching. I've been Brom18, and I will see you soon.